we were not here at Elon, but in a Pentecostal church located somewhere in the Deep South, where time in church on a Sunday morning was totally irrelevant, I would read to you the second gospel that was offered as well as the first for today's Easter Sunday Mass. We're not in the Deep South. We're not in a Pentecostal church. So instead of reading it, I'll just remind you of it because you know the story very well. Two disciples walking from Jerusalem to a town called Emmaus, 7 miles away from Jerusalem, heads down in despair because their friend Jesus, who they thought was the Messiah, was crucified and died. They were in despair, dejected, walking along, when all of a sudden a stranger appears walking alongside of them and starts asking them what they're talking about and why they're sad. And they go on to tell the story of Jesus and their high hopes in Jesus. And he says, okay, and he acts like he's going further. They ask him to have dinner with them, and he breaks the bread, and poof, they recognize him as Jesus Christ. And poof, he disappears. Until the next time. It all started in our toddler stage when our parents or our loved ones started playing peekaboo with us. You remember? And then as we grew older into adolescence, we started to play that wonderful game that peekaboo morphed into, and that is hide and seek. And if we are believing Christians who accept Jesus as the Lord and Messiah of our lives, we play peekaboo and hide and seek with Jesus Christ our whole entire lives. Gerard Manley Hopkins said it so well. The earth is charged with the presence of God. We just have to open our eyes to see it. On your way into this chapel this morning, after the rain, did you see the beautiful pink blossoms on the peach tree right there? Or the Bradford pear blossoms right there? The earth is charged with the presence of God, and it should electrify us somehow. This past week, I don't know why Elon chose Holy Week for spring break, but they did. And this past week, I and 11 others had the wonderful opportunity to find the presence of God working with Habitat in James Island, Charleston, South Carolina. I had the great pleasure of being introduced to an older man, probably late 70s, named Dirk. Dirk was a volunteer for Habitat, long, gray, straggly hair, smoked pell-mell cigarettes as if they were a penny apiece, drank some mysterious, possible spiritual liquid out of a thermos all day long. A carpenter, and I and a young man from Eastern Connecticut State University, also from my hometown, Bridgeport, Connecticut, were assigned outside in the cold to work with Dirk. He said, here's the wood for the deck you're going to build, the flooring of the deck. And I'm like, oh, He says, mark this, 59 inches, cut it with that saw over there. And I said, I can't cut straight. I never could cut straight. So the first cut I made, it wasn't straight. And I'm like, fear and trembling, walking up to Dirk, and like, what is he going to do to me, you know? He said, it's only a piece of wood, Father. Get another one and cut it straight this time. The man showed great compassion. He showed great patience, but he still had that air about him that made me feel inferior whenever I or the gentleman I was working with, whose name was escaping me, sounds like Nixon. Anyway, we were working together and we were both ashamed and sometimes embarrassed of our handiwork, call it that. But he had such great patience, and I saw and met the presence of God often in Mr. Dirk. The day we left, Thursday, we're walking on the completed floorboards of this deck. He put his arm around both of us and he said, call me a kid, did a wonderful job, and I am so proud of you, and had tears coming down my eyes, because this was an experience of God for me. One of the women who was going to be the happy homeowner of one of these Habitat homes, her name was Miss Ruth. She was so delighted that we came down. There were 24 of us, students and adults, there working with her and a number of other homeowners. She went around as we gathered in our final circle with her iPad to get our names, our addresses, where we were from. She wanted to show her family that these were the students who helped to build her home. The presence of God in this room. Hopkins was right. The earth is charged with the presence of God. It's on fire with the presence of God. It's on fire in us with the presence of God. We just have to be the presence of God for one another. In a few minutes, you and I will have the opportunity to renew our baptismal promises, to say that we truly have the presence of God within us. We are the presence of God for all those we show compassion, patience, generosity towards. We are charged with the presence of God.